Hello, I'm Stanley, and today I'd like to talk about Noah's Ark and the Church of Jesus Christ. I'm going to try and lay out the evidence that the church was always a part of the temple of the Lord. In the temple, in the tabernacle in the wilderness that Noah was instructed to set up, we find on one side of the Holy of Holies a golden candlestick, a menorah that had 7 lamps. And on the other side of the Holy of Holies, we find a table that had 12 loaves of bread placed on top of it. Now, I'm going to demonstrate that the menorah is symbolic of the 7 churches that John told us about in Revelations chapters 1 through 3. And the Bible's clear that the showbread, the table with the 12 loaves of bread, each loaf of bread represented one of the 12 tribes of Israel. And so from that angle, I think you will see that the church was prophesied in Noah's flood, and that it was always intended to be a part of God's temple. The church being non-Hebrews and Hebrews alike. The first chart I'll show you is Noah's Ark, how Noah and 7 others were in the ark, and we'll see what we have. Alright, this first chart, you can see my crude hand-drawn picture of Noah's Ark, the 15 cubits above the highest mountain peak, and this is Genesis chapters 6 through 8. Inside the ark we have Noah. He's the head. And then we have Noah's wife. We have Shem, Shem's wife, Ham, Ham's wife, Japheth, and Japheth's wife. And this is roughly the prophecy that John combines with the church in Revelation chapters 1, 2, and 3. Here we have Zechariah chapter 4, and Zechariah, he saw a menorah. He saw 7 candlesticks with a base, and then there was a bowl of oil above, just above enough that would connect tubes to each lamp on top of it. And each tube allowed the oil from the bowl, gravity would allow it to flow, and then there would be an endless supply of oil in what looks to me like an ark that's floating above. Now, on each side of the menorah, we find an olive tree. And so we have 2 olive trees. And to me, each tree, we have Noah on the left, Noah to Moses. And then another fulfillment of this imagery that I see, we have Moses on the left and Jesus. We have Noah building an ark by faith, and then we have the lawgiver. And then the second fulfillment of this image is we have Moses, the lawgiver, and we have Jesus, who gave us grace and truth. Now, if we go back, all right, we'll just stop there, and we'll put the next image up. We've seen Genesis chapters 6 through 9 and Zechariah chapter 4. Now we're looking at Revelations chapters 1, 2, and 3, and what we have is John up in heaven's throne room, from what I can tell, and we have Jesus. I put Jesus as a cross symbol. We have Jesus in the midst of 7 candlesticks. All right? Now, the similarities, we have Jesus, Noah is literally a type and foreshadow of Jesus. Noah was the head that was inside the ark. With Noah, we have he has a wife, and I believe that that is the church of Sardis. This is a feminine church, and this is the only church whose garments were defiled. Now, the reason that that church stands out to me is Noah's wife. When whatever happened with Ham and Canaan, and Noah's nakedness was uncovered, and Shem and Japheth had to cover up their father's nakedness, I believe that John was telling us that garments were involved, and the church of Sardis' garments are defiled. But there are still a few in Sardis whose garments are not defiled yet. Now, I list this as a feminine church. From there, we have Shem. Shem is symbolic of the church of Philadelphia. Shem is who the line of Jesus came through to prepare. Shem was part of the line of the Messiah. The church of Smyrna, I believe that's symbolic of Japheth. Japheth, we're not told that Japheth did anything wrong like Ham. Japheth will be persecuted for 10 days. And he's told to remain faithful. The church that Ham represents is the Laodicean church. They're rich and they have need of nothing. Now, the wives of Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now, I just labeled them this way. I'm not sure which wives are the proper representation for the church. But for the church of Ephesus, I've got that as a feminine church. And the church of Ephesus seems to have the least condemnation from Jesus. So I labeled her as Shem's wife. She has the Nicolaitan spirit. And from my studies, that is a spirit that likes to control people. The church of Thyatira, they, I believe they represent Japheth's wife. They have a little more wrong with their church than what the church of Ephesus did. And they have a Jezebel. They have a Jezebel doctrine or theology. They're fornicating and they're eating food sacrificed to idols. Now, the church of Pergamos, I gave that church the title of Ham's wife. This church has the doctrines of Balaam. They have food sacrificed to idols. They have fornication. And they have a Nicolaitan spirit. Now, I'm convinced that whatever was going on in the church of Pergamos and Thyatira, they were teaching believers how to sin inside marriage and possibly outside of marriage. I don't have enough resources to determine what they were actually doing. Alright, we'll take a look at the final chart. Alright, this chart sums up Noah's flood, Noah's ark, with Noah and 7 others. This points us to Zechariah's menorah with a bowl or an arch shape above it, with Noah standing on the left side and Moses on the right. And then for the prophecy of Jesus taking the reins, we have Moses on the left and Jesus on the right. Now from there, we come to the church that the Apostle John lists out in Revelations chapters 1, 2, and 3. Jesus is standing in the midst of 7 candlesticks. Notice a menorah has a base or a foundation. The church that the 7 churches John was describing before his death, he literally was telling us they lost their foundation. Yes, Jesus is in the midst of them, but they've lost their foundation. That will be a later discussion, what I believe their foundation is. Jesus is the oil. Jesus is the one that gives us life or light, depending on how you want to think of it. The same was in the ark. Noah was the one that gave the 7 others life or light. 7 candlesticks standing alone. The church has lost its base. I hope that you can see that the church of Jesus Christ was prophesied from Genesis to almost the end of the Old Testament to the last book in our current Bible. Right there is the church. And I would like to point out that the church, the Gentile believers and the Hebrew believers alike, were all part of the temple. It's just now the church has lost its base. I hope I was able to explain myself properly. I thank you for your time, and if you have any other revelation that can go along with the Noah and the church, I would be more than happy to add it as is applicable. Thank you for your time, and I hope that I was able to explain myself properly. This is a tricky subject, and I don't know if I went off on tangents or the likes, but I trust that I gave you enough images and details to present my case. And thanks again.